think about the world. And in that world, Bitcoin is king. Ethereum is the crown prince. And then there's all the other princes that hate each other. And most of those go away, right? They literally do. I mean, most utility tokens have no utility, so they should die and will die.
Hey everyone, let's just jump into Ethereum and the potential of an ETF.
The Bitcoin ETF, a Fidelity ETF, the Grayscale ETF, the BlackRock ETF. The ETF.
Do you think the SEC will approve an Ethereum ETF in May? Is Ethereum really cementing itself as the blockchain app platform? Or do alts like Solana still pose a threat? And where does Mark see projects like Cardano and XRP fitting into the future landscape?
A Bitcoin maxi, you own a bunch of different things, you're a technology maximalist. Now, we had BlackRock and we have a bunch of Ethereum ETFs. We have the final deadline coming up in May. 2 questions around Ethereum. Do you think we get approval in May? Does BlackRock applying for giving an application to the SEC, does that make it a certainty in your eyes? And secondly, do you ever think we see a flippening? Do you ever think Ethereum takes that #1 spot, or is Bitcoin forever cemented as the #1 top dog?
Yeah. So again, 2 really good questions. So I would have said, past tense, that BlackRock submitting meant guarantee, right? They're 477 out of 478, right? They don't lose. So that makes me change my stance from 2 weeks ago, where I was like, look, Gary isn't going to approve it no matter what, because the only reason he approved the Bitcoin was because the court literally forced him to. Right? They basically put him in a situation where it was untenable for him to not approve. So I also think Ethereum has some very strong allies in the traditional world. And, the whole consensus crowd is very tied into, the whole BlackRock crowd. So I would say that increases the likelihood. I'm still not going to say it's much better than a 50-50, but it's not a 0 like I thought it was a couple weeks ago.
Personally, I think Mark could be underestimating Gensler a bit. While he did drag his feet on the Bitcoin ETF, approving Ethereum would follow the SEC's mission of protecting investors through innovation. With bigger funds like BlackRock doing their research, retail will likely have good access to this new asset either way. I'm even more bullish. I say it's over 50% we see the green light in May. BlackRock knows what they're doing, and more traditional players getting involved can only help push these products through. Am I being too optimistic? What do you guys think? Will Ethereum investors be cheering an approval next month or still waiting? Let me know in the comments.
I really thought this was like the last barrier for all the big advisors to gain access. And so that surprised me a little bit. Now, when I think about it, it doesn't surprise me at all, because they got the call from Ms. Warren saying, hey, we don't like the fact that Gary went ahead and approved these. We don't think he should have. He kind of had to. I mean, the courts told him he had to, because he had no reason to deny them. And so from that perspective, I didn't anticipate that. I thought the inflows would be more 10 billion-ish in the first few days, and we only had, more like 3-4. So that surprised me a little bit.
Now Mark doesn't seem to think so long-term, and he gave a reasonable explanation as to why. Bitcoin's digital gold narrative and role as a true currency is unmatched. Ethereum, on the other hand, fuels applications, so its TM may be limited. At the same time, the gap has closed significantly already, and if this bull cycle brings another alt season like 2017, who knows how high ETH's market cap could fly short-term. Personally, I think declaring Bitcoin the forever winner is short-sighted. Things change rapidly in this space, and Ethereum has the first mover advantage in its application sector. If it can continue scaling, maybe one day its real-world usage value will exceed even Bitcoin.
It's been about a month since we saw the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs, and I just want to get your initial thoughts over the last month. Were you impressed with the inflows? Were you disappointed, or did it sort of go exactly how you thought it would play out?
A great final part of the question. So, I went almost how I expected it to go, except for the last little wrinkle, which was I didn't anticipate Vanguard, UBS, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch basically coming out and saying, no, you, our client, can't put your own money in this approved product. I really thought this was like the last barrier for all the big advisors to gain access. And so that surprised me a little bit. Now, when I think about it, it doesn't surprise me at all, because they got the call from Ms. Warren saying, hey, we don't like the fact that Gary went ahead and approved these. We don't think he should have. He kind of had to. I mean, the courts told him he had to, because he had no reason to deny them.
As the ecosystem expands, each new dApp increases Ethereum's overall utility. Compare that to Bitcoin, which is focused on being sound money. Utility arguably has more upside long-term. Of course, it's an apples to oranges comparison, however. Increased real-world usage of Ethereum's network could potentially lead to greater valuation over time versus Bitcoin just being an SOV. I'm fascinated to see how these differing narratives play out. In any case, both projects seem quite complementary so far. But what do you think? Which provides more lasting appeal and growth potential down the road? Let me know your views in the comments.
You had the inflows coming in, which were robust. I mean, BlackRock's up to over 3 billion, Fidelity's at 2 billion, Bitwise and ARK are nipping at their heels at just under 1 billion. So that's all great. But the outflows from GBTC were expected as well. But I think people kind of didn't think about that when they were thinking about, number go up as soon as the demand increases.
Mark mentioned past projects like EOS that failed to live up to the hype, which I think is a fair assessment. However, he may be underestimating some current threats. Specifically, he downplayed concerns about Solana's speed and price advantages. But its explosive growth is undeniable. Will developers continue gravitating towards its superior tech? Overall, this is a never say never situation in my view. Competition will only drive further progress. But yeah, I'd like to know your perspectives in the comments.
And the part that I really didn't anticipate, although I did tweet out about this a little bit, there was a little known change that was happening the same day as the approval of the ETFs, which was there was a new line of futures being introduced at CME. And basically what that means is there were going to be a whole bunch more short sellers on the other side. So I think what happened, I don't have any inside baseball, but what I think happened was some of the big dogs accumulated Bitcoin leading up to the launch and, in accounts. And that pushed us from kind of 40K up to that, momentary spike to 47.
Personally, I think the third option seems most plausible long-term. While Bitcoin will remain big, forcing total unification seems unrealistic given the choice and innovation happening. That said, Mark's point about bridges needing to be safer over time is valid. Finding secure interoperability solutions will be key for different blockchains to thrive together. Projects like Cosmos and Polkadot aiming to enable this are super interesting. However, regulatory clarity for cross-chain activity will also be needed.
You can call it whatever you want, and the fact that we're not at 100K Bitcoin, I don't know why anyone thought we were going to be at 100K Bitcoin overnight. It's a long answer, but I'll give you one last thing. I made a statement leading up that there's 30 trillion
As much as some Maxis bash scam coins, the truth is, many alts are serious efforts whether they succeed long-term or not. That said, his pushback on meme coins and outright Ponzi schemes is also warranted, I think. No question, many exist solely to fleece investors with no intention of building. So in that sense, his framework for separating quality projects from obvious cash grabs is a sensible one, as long as one remains open-minded to innovation over time. What do you guys think? Are there any so-called shitcoins you think actually have potential? If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more interviews and market analysis, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, join us in our Telegram group to continue the conversation. We've got a great community always chatting about the latest news and opportunities.